everyone. Welcome back. You're still with us here on the C Morning Show. We're now into the final hour of our program, and it's time for our second morning discussion. Now, since the term Asian values has been trending everywhere nowadays, let's talk a little bit about Asian approaches to education. Now, in many Asian cultures, education is not just a means to an end, but also a fundamental pillar upon which personal and familial success is built. Therefore, many parents here in Asia are willing to make significant financial sacrifices for their children's education.
Yes, that's right, P. This raises an important question. Is this a tradition or a burden? Or does it reflect the positive aspects of Asian cultural values? We will also discuss about the impact of being a tiger mom or a strict, demanding, and highly involved approach in children's education, including the sacrifices that they made to choose the best schools. And to learn more about this, we are now joined by founder and financial advisor of DNF Finance, Alia Natasha. Good morning, Alia.
Morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you
Always
for
good to have
having
you.
me again.
So let's talk a little bit about, before we get into everything else, what are Asian values? We hear this term so much these days.
Yeah, so as we are Asian, I can get that we totally understand what is Asian values, which the core value itself has come from the family. We always prioritize our family compared to the Western value itself.
Okay.
We very appreciate the collective approach instead of being individualism.
Okay.
That's why this family approach, bringing everything about the family, is become our priorities. And there's narrow it down. The first, we very respect our families. Second, we very respect on our elderlies.
Yeah, like parents are everything. Like,
And not just in the parents, on the family, even in the organizational, like the office hierarchy and everything. And the third, the most important things in Asian value is about education.
yes.
Why is that? Because 100 years ago in China, the education plays an important part for every family to level up their status of a symbol of status. Only an educational people can have a position in a very good organizational government at that time, even 100 years ago.
Right.
And it's bringing down to our modern society, where all the job requirements have specifications to have certain degrees
Absolutely.
for a very reputable companies and very well-known position itself.
I can relate with everything that you just said growing up as well. I remember my mom and dad telling me, no matter what happens, you just have to finish school. We don't care about anything else, right? Like what
yeah.
you want to do, sports, extracurricular, whatever, go ahead. But make sure you just finish school because that's number one, because you can't proceed in life without it.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. Education is believed to be this one vehicle we can move upwards,
Right.
right? So that's why, like parents in Indonesia or maybe in Asia in general, like we are being all out
For an investment.
for education. We take it as an investment, right? So actually, based on like financial planning perspective regarding the budget for education for the children, how much should be like the ideal one?
Okay. Actually, there is no ideal budget because it depends on the parents' income or the family budget income.
Yes.
Because in the Asian values, the education is a family investment, not just for the children, but it reflects to the family.
Right.
Okay,
yes.
so you see the impact not just for the kids, but maybe for the sisters, siblings, cousin, and the pride of the grandpa or grandma and everything. So it's more like a family investment. So the budget itself, I just read certain findings from a HSBC global report. That said, for an Asian, they put 66% of their retirement savings just for college education.
Is it too much?
66%.
Wow.
Wow, that's huge.
And 22% of this respondent said they are willing to sell their asset just to fund their children's education, higher education fund.
When we're talking selling assets, what do we mean? Like remortgaging a home and things of that sort?
Selling
Selling.
your home.
Selling your assets.
Okay.
So because we're talking about family investment, but the survey is taken from China, India, Hong Kong, Singapore. So most of Asian people are willing to pay and make financial sacrifices just for the education itself.
How much of, I mean, it's really hard to track this, and I don't know if
Okay.
you'll be able to answer this, but how much of this is, when we talk about investment, you always talk about returns, right?
Yeah.
How much of this is actually bringing a return? Because returns are hard to measure, right?
Okay.
If you say someone got themselves a degree or
Yeah.
a master's, but how much of that is actually returning to the family? How do they consider that?
There is no valid report
Right.
about return on investment
Correct.
about the education itself. But for most of Asian families, they put their education for their kids in science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So
Right.
for most likely about high-income industry fields. And for Indonesia itself, we can see for the middle upper families, they are willing to pay up to 50% of their monthly income just to send their kids to the private school.
Right.
And therefore, we see so much booming about private school, not just in Indonesia, but in Singapore, Malaysia. Everyone wants to put their children's education in a private school. What about you?
I sent my kid to a private school, but this one is like very affordable.
It's an affordable private school because there's
Yes.
different levels when it comes to private schools, right?
Yes,
So
it's affordable because of the parents' income.
No,
Right, I
but
see what you
compared to other schools, my kid's school is pretty.
But we're also comparing our income to
But,
other
yeah.
middle,
Oh,
middle
yeah, yeah.
income families out there.
That's
Yes.
right, Dad.
And the second factors maybe because you both have a double income power.
Correct.
So the
Yes.
husband and the wife are working, but it's gonna be very difficult if only one single income to provide all the needs and especially education funds that keep rising faster than
Right.
the rising of our salary,
That's
right?
right. It's like
Yeah.
10% to 15% maybe.
Okay.
And parents like are willing to sacrifice their pension fund to fund for their children's education, right?
Well, it's well intended, but if you ask me right now for me to give up half of my salary for my children's education, I would come into some financial difficulty. In the cases that you've looked at, are there people that have put themselves in financial difficulty because they're sacrificing so much to put into their children's education?
For some people who put like 50% of
Yeah.
their monthly income budget, it's not about the sacrifice. It's about how they prioritize the education itself
Okay.
that can help them grow their career and put them in a better quality of life at the moment. We've seen a progressing a baby boomer's career where we see Indonesia is nothing in 1980s.
Right.
And then with the very good education and with the learning opportunities, their career growth and having a quality of life.
Okay.
So 50% for the income for them, no, because they live the real example of having a really good education can help them pursue a better life.
There is a
in the
payoff.
future.
Right.
Yes, but another thing that we see with the uprising lifestyle inflation and living expenses, like 50% has become normal if you have 2 or more kids.
Right. Makes sense.
And some people are willing to pay for education than having a mortgage. So they are willing to put their children in the best school system instead of having a house. So there's another key factors that we see why the rent of housing is rising.
Yes,
It's
that's
two
right.
different things.
So with so many priorities on our plate, like children's education and then housing, pension fund, how can we manage and plan this all so we will not becoming a burden to
Right.
our children in the future?
Yeah. So first, we need to start very early about financial planning. I know it sounds boring like budgeting, saving, but we need to do it at the moment. And then select school at your capacity. It's much easier to upgrade your level of quality of school rather than downgrading. And then second, have a automate savings just for education funds. So we can call it like education savings. Third, saving is good, but investing is better.
Okay.
So you need to make your money move. It needs to be growth over time instead just sitting nicely in your savings. So as a parents, we need to open up our mind and being updated with what's happening out there about financial and investment. Because in the Asian value itself, some families have controlled their finance only governed by the male. So only the grandpa or the father who makes this financial call or financial decision.
And they talk about money only to boys.
Usually like that,
right.
yeah. But we can see there is a transitioning behavior between they took care of the moms to be there's succession. It's like when something happened to the dad, the mom can take a very huge role in terms of funding. And the last one, it's really good if you have a education insurance or a life insurance to manage that your kids will have can pursue their educations without any financial challenges or risks.
Okay. That's what we're doing, by the way, because I do have more than one child. So
Okay.
instead of trying to just put money away bit by bit, we just have education insurance. So that's the money that they'll one day be able to take out themselves to use to pay for their further education. So when it comes to putting money away, can we all agree that 50% is kind of heavy?
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
What would be a more reasonable amount that we as parents need to put away? Obviously, depending on the number of children that we have. So
Okay.
the range, I guess.
I think, in my point of view, 30%
Up to
is
30%.
a maximum.
Okay.
Is a maximum, because we need to adjust with the lifestyle and inflation nowadays, because living expenses is still keep rising. And why put so much burden for your education while we can be creative in educating our children?
Oh, good point.
Yes, we need to be proactive itself as a parents, because we, as the second source of education for value, principles, and the guidance.
Yes.
Because no matter how old our kids is, they need our direction, they need our guidance. Although we want to transfer responsibilities to them, but they haven't lived long enough and have a really good wisdom to make a beautiful decision.
Okay. It's a very good point, because when it comes to Asian values, we do know that family is very important, and we do want to do everything we can, but we also
Yeah.
don't want to burden them with any sort of debt, because we never know what can happen down the line as well.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's
And
right.
as we embrace Asian value, it's a really good as transfer knowledge that we put this value to them.
Yeah.
Not being a burden, but for them to be proud of us as a parent.
Yeah, you can send your kids to the best schools, but
Yeah.
if you don't have teaching them, if you're not teaching them good family values,
Yes.
then what are they going to become anyway?
Yeah, so school is not the sole responsible. What is it? Some
Or
people like
educate our
some people like send their kids to the best school, expecting school will teach them.
Take
Correct.
care
About
of
life,
everything.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, we cannot do that, obviously, as you mentioned. And Alia, after we put aside some amount of money for our kids' education fund, for the instrument that we can choose.
Okay.
Can
We
you
can
tell
go
us?
from the very low risk. It's about like a government bonds. It's give you a fixed rate, less tax compared to any other instrument,
Yes.
and it kept growing. So I made a little bit of calculation. If you put like a 1 million every month for 10 years with the 6.5% rates annually, you will get like 170.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, you need to see the timeline. It's a 10 years.
Yeah, because you're locking it in for a long time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then I make another illustration. Like the first 5 years, if we still trying to get our career and we can only put 1 million, and then we put another 5 years with the 5 million a month, and then we vary our instrument. Like the first year, maybe we put in the government bonds, and then the second year we buy gold, and then the third year we try to have like mutual funds and stocks. So on the average, 20 to 30%. By 10 years, we would get almost a 500 millions.
Wow, that's pretty big.
But the key is in compounding. You need to lock it and reinvest it every year. So nothing is possible, and we can start small, but really starting early will make a very huge differences.
Like youngsters nowadays, they say like on social media that they're preparing for educational fund even before they get married.
Yeah.
When they're still single. Oh my God, like how can we position ourselves in this education industry? Because, you know, some like big corporations are behind the best private schools in Indonesia. They know that this business is lucrative. We as parents, how can we balance our Asian values as well as not like sacrificing our future
First, we need to realize our condition is different than the rest. When we get to know what our value it was, what really our income can help us go through the education. Because there is no point sending your kids to a really great school if one day you can no longer afford. It will affect their well-being and affect their confidence. So I think one of the good thing about planning this that you have a map. Well, it's okay to go to private school near your house until elementary school is finished, and then go to a better one when your career is much more steady, your wages increase more. It's about like 8 years later when your kids may be 10 or 12, and then you get everything settled. Get there to get a better, higher education. Because to be honest, we who look to our CV and certificates from elementary, none.
Yes.
So if you have a limit budget and you want to have your kids have a quality of education, focus at the end of the education. End of goal is to send our kids to the best college.
Post-secondary.
Yes.
Right.
Whereas the social interaction, where the networking can begin, where you're gonna meet lots of intellectual people.
And they're around us less as well, right? They're more on their own.
Yes, and then you get to be independent thinker about it. But the very basic, that's why I'm saying the very basic, when our kids in the golden age, we need to educate. We need
Agree.
to transfer our Asian values. So they are built their confidence, they built their self-values, and they know what to do with our direction. So I think if our budget is limited, let's focus on a high school, college, and then universities.
Well
Yes.
said.
Thank you.
I like that plan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. That's been very enlightening because we do know that thinking about the price of education can be a burden, especially if you have a young family. So I think number one is you just have to plan out your future well and take care of your kids while they're still young, while they still want to be around you all the time. Right?
That's right.
Anyway, we got to take a short break here. We hope this talk has been enlightening for you as it has for us. We'll be back with more updates here on the C Morning Show, only on the C Today News Network. Stay tuned.